Now we start our first panel with a very interesting topic about where all of this is going. The future of autonomous AI agents, predictions for the next 12 months and beyond. Please welcome the moderator, Christian, principal at Signature Ventures, and joining him on stage, Jordan, co-founder of AITV, Neo, CEO of Almanak, Derrek, a DevRel lead at Recall, and Ron, founder and CEO of Theoriq. Let's hear what the future holds.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the first panel of the night. I'm Christian with Signature Ventures. We invested pre-seed seed stage into crypto infra and middleware. And today we're here with our guests to talk a little bit about the next 12 months. But before we do that, maybe to give you some context, I would ask all of you to just give a brief intro, just 1 minute, what you're working on, what's your background, and then we can dive in.
Sure, hi, my name is Neo. You can find me on socials, on Twitter. I'm CEO and co-founder of Almanak. In Almanak, we build agents that make money, and we are very pragmatic, and we want to basically leverage what AI is the best at, which is coding and processing data fast. And we are utilizing it to dramatically speed up the development of sophisticated trading strategies. Almanak has two components, the AI part that I just mentioned, and the blockchain part, which basically allows these agents to interact with the blockchain. We believe that crypto is the best at managing assets. Crypto is meant for managing assets and for finance. So we are fully focused on that. We are very specialized on it. About myself, I'm in the space for 8 years, and I have a degree in mathematics.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan. I'm from the project called AITV. We create an agentic media network. And so these agents that we create in this media network go live. They live stream. You can embed them in different social platforms, and they engage with audiences. And so these are multiplayer agents. We're big fans of Olas for all the work that they've done there, creating these multiplayer agents. And we add a spectacle on top. So it's such an interesting, creative experience to be able to talk with AI and have it do many different things. And we work with brands to be able to launch new characters. And so if you want to create a new character for your brand to go live for your community, we would love to talk to you. And the point of this is to be able to create like these autonomous creators on the internet that can build community, maybe demonstrate your product. And additionally, we have a economic model that helps drive token volume and distribute those tokens out to users. And so come and find us. We'd love to talk to you, show you the app. We can chat with some characters today. And TGE is tomorrow, so fun stuff. Yeah. Take care, everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Ron. I'm co-founder and CEO of Theoriq. We've been building at the intersection of AI and Web3 for the last 3 years. Founding team are AI veterans. We did things like I sold a previous startup to Teradata, an AI startup, and then I went to work in the CTO office at Google on applied AI. As a founding team, we really believe that bringing AI and blockchain together is going to be incredibly important as the most transformative technologies of our time, and that it was incredibly important that we do it in the right way, right? That it's important that it not fall into the hands of a few monopolies, which unfortunately, I'd say as an industry, let's be honest, we're not doing super well on that, but we need to fight the good fight here and have empowerment and democratization of AI. And what we built an agent swarm protocol so that specialized agents that anyone can build work together and can communicate, can message in a secure and scalable way, and interact in a financial way, right? So to really securely manage funds with strong guarantees, right? So we're very much believe that the killer app for crypto and AI together is the agentic economy. So we've been building in public the last few months, leveraging the success of our first test net, where we had over 500,000 users and about 60 million interactions in just a 3-month period, to have what we call Alpha Swarm, which is a swarm of smart agents working together to understand deeply projects, understand liquidity positions, automate those, and continue to add more and more knowledge and capabilities, right? So we believe that the future is agentic, and we're very excited. We're just kicked off a community beta in our March to mainnet, so exciting times.
Hi everyone, my name is Derrek. I'm the DevRel lead at Recall. recalls, building a discoverability and trust layer on top of all the really cool agents and agent tooling that we're seeing today, including some of the ones we just saw presentations on. Basic idea, how do we figure out which agents are the best at any given skill? Just make them do competitions and figure out a rank over time. So if you're building an agent, it could be in any vertical, but we're starting with crypto trading. Please come talk to me afterward. Or if you're building tooling for agent developers and you want to get it in the hands of agent developers that are already testing in production in front of our community of 250,000 people voting on these things, then please come speak with me later.
Perfect. Thank you. Great to have all of you with us. We're talking about predictions today, and before we actually look out, I just want to actually give the audience a chance to judge how successful you'll be at giving predictions, right? Because if they're actually right, you probably didn't make them bold enough. But let's maybe reflect first, right? If you look back over the past 12 months, maybe there's something that you were actually completely sure would happen and didn't materialize over the past 12 months in agentic AI. So maybe talk about one thing that just didn't materialize that we're sure about. Neo, why don't you kick us off?
So I don't have a thing that I was sure is not gonna materialize, because let's be honest, we work in a very innovative environment, and being sure about, if anyone was sure about anything, that person wouldn't sit here, just be rich somewhere on the boat, yeah? So we just can have like some predictions of like 10% probability and hopefully diversify enough to get a good bet. What I can say, what I was very bearish always, is that AI gonna be managing in a black box a lot of money. And I'm still very surprised that a lot of people are still very bullish on it. And I think big money will never deposit big assets into like black box or LLM-based wallets. So yeah.
Salacious take. Okay, so yeah, for us, I think that it's been a really interesting journey, because when we first started working in AI around 2023, mixing AI with Web3, we thought that we couldn't actually realistically predict the space. It was moving so quickly, and so we, instead of trying to plant a flag out into the distance and say this is where things are going, we ended up rapidly releasing agents, kind of like surfing the wave of innovation that was the whole AI space after the ChatGPT moment. Some of the things that didn't come to fruition, which I'm kind of personally sad about, we built this one agent called Indexer. It was built on top of Farcaster, and its whole point, it's very similar to what Grok does today. You could tag it in posts, you could say, hey, what do you think about this? Or Indexer, show me the best NFTs or the best cat content, and it would bring all that content to you. And what we were really passionate about with Indexer was making it kind of this like multiplayer mechanical Turk, where it's like an AI in the middle, users are helping tag it on relevant content, and they're getting rewarded for helping Indexer do its job. Instead, what we have is we have Grok. People don't necessarily help it do its job. It just kind of has access to all of X's data, which they paywall in a ridiculous fashion. And now, they just kind of use it as the consumer model that we all kind of, live and breathe in today. So I would love to see more collaboration between like humans and AI and creating kind of like this mutual beneficial economic model. I think that that's really where like the human AI symbiosis happens, but I don't think it's happening.
I think probably the biggest prediction that surprised me, the thing that I thought is that Web 2 would be a lot slower about really going after things like payments and creating agents and indeed protocols for agent coordination, right? So we launched a testnet last fall around agents coordinating with messaging and identity in a permissionless way. And it's interesting to me that by late last year, we had a Cisco-based effort with agency, and then earlier this year, more notably, Google launched their agent-to-agent. Now, those two efforts are still basically in the shadow of a chatbot, right? They're like, agents are coordinating, but when you dig in, it's not that different than MCP. It's like, oh, and like one agent is going to be a subroutine that your chatbot calls to go and do something, which is probably not where agents really need to be. But I think that the big takeaway from that, and the thing is like, the Web 2 world is moving fast, and they're also leaning in quite heavily to open source. So it's like, for those of us building with ideals in Web 3, it's like the lead time, to come ahead and to land stuff is just a few months over where things are moving in Web 2, right? The other thing that I think is notable, this isn't a big surprise, but the amount of capital that's flowing into AI is so massive, right? You're seeing startups without products, like the former CTO from OpenAI, her startup just did the biggest seed round in history. They raised, what, $2 billion on an $8 billion valuation. So valuations that are making crypto valuations look downright conservative. So, I guess the thing is, like, we have our homework cut out for us in competing with that ecosystem.
Wow, that's wild, actually. Yeah, I thought it'd be easier to find them by now. Like, I use these things all the time. Like, raise your hand if your Twitter feed and your newsletters are just full of, like, AI content all the time. You're just like, oh, yeah, I want to keep up with things. Yeah, it's hard, right? And, like, out of the talks we saw today, like, oh, some cool trading agents and stuff. I can't backtest those. Like, I don't know which ones are good. And so the idea, as someone who desperately wants to use these things, I am the ICP. It's like, okay, well, how do I compare them?
You mean you don't trust a slide that says I ran it myself for 30 days and here's the return?
Well, this is the whole thing I don't get about AI is that it's non-deterministic. So people are like, good news, it does random things every time, even with the same inputs. And it's like, well.
Is that different than a money market manager?
Yeah, it's maybe not quite different from us sitting here making predictions as well. So yeah, let's move on. We heard a couple of times already in the slides before that an essential part of actually working with agents is to define their objectives and what they actually go after, right? Which I think is different because you just give them an objective and they do the rest in a black box or sometimes transparently, but they do it independently. And I think you guys have different perspectives on that, but Ron and Neo, with Almanak and Theoriq, you're building general purpose frameworks, right, to actually build something with agents. But you're also then offering a first set of products that you're developing yourselves, right, where you actually, in the general purpose stuff, you get around actually defining objectives. But then now building products, you have to come up with that objective for them. So can you talk a little bit about like how you go from a general purpose framework, narrowing it down, to defining objectives? And then what's the challenge actually in doing so? Maybe, Ron, you want to kick us off? Sure.
So I'd point out we don't have a framework, right? Because we're really a true protocol in the sense that as long as you comply with the API, you can build an agent any way you want and contribute it, and it can coordinate and work with other agents, right? So whereas a framework is like, here's a whole bunch of utilities together in a library, it makes it really easy to build an agent, but we think there's going to be, I totally agree with David's slide from the opening of like, here's this eye chart of all the frameworks for building agents, and the history of open source told us that was not a surprise, right? That you're going to see more and more of these things appear, right? So they need to still interoperate and cooperate, right? So that's one thing is like, yes, we have an SDK to make it easy to communicate with our protocol, but we want to make it easy to use with any framework. We're not prescriptive about that. But yeah, I mean, I think you always have to have some kind of objective in what the agent's trying to accomplish. We definitely lean on making it easy for users to give input and to guide. Like, I think one of the great strengths of LLMs is that they can improve usability, right? So we see a lot of times users want to start with a kind of guided human-in-the-loop experience where they can give instructions and confirm things, and then over time have more and more handover autonomy, right? And it's in that loop of giving instructions and guiding that they can set and fine-tune what they want and see how it's working. But generally, I think it's also true that when you get to the inner loop of like taking quick financial decisions, an LLM doesn't belong in the middle of that. Like, that's just not an efficient way of operating. So it's on an outer loop, the OODA loop, that's sort of orienting and thinking and adjusting, but then you're going to have something optimized in the middle that's a financial primitive.
You?
Thank you. So actually, we've always been very focused on building financial agents, or agents that are specialized in making money. So the reason why we've been like, first of all, I've been in the space for 8 years. There is only one thing that crypto is good at, is like making or losing money, or like asset management, trading. I've seen hairdressers on chain, it doesn't work. So we are very pragmatic. We've been always like, okay, who's gonna pay for that? Traders, asset managers. So the first checkpoint. So we've been always very focused on that. But I really like what Derrek said, that we very early realized that no big money gonna deposit assets into non-deterministic, non-verifiable strategies. Yeah, strategy has to be end-to-end. The big guys that are gonna deposit, I don't know, $100 million into this strategy, they're gonna ask, okay, what if? Like, they want to backtest it. They want it to be end-to-end. They don't want it to evolve. Yeah. So we're like, okay, like AI is not gonna be managing assets anytime soon. So what we did, instead of trying to create a holy grail of an agent that's gonna be making us millionaires, we thought, okay, agents are great at two things. They are coding way, way faster than other people, and they are processing data way, way faster than other people. So we use these two principles to create two swarms of agents that are basically building fully deterministic end-to-end strategies and later managing them. But you still need to you need to be the point of contact between, I don't know, allocator of this $100 million and these agents, yeah? So our story was like we've been always pragmatic. We've been always working with big banks, with big asset managers, and been just asking them, hey guys, like, what do you want? Like, how we can convince you to give money to AI to manage it? And they were like, we kind of don't want to do that unless it's gonna be deterministic and fully verifiable.
Yeah, taking it back to the question of, how do you boil it down to being, a valid use case from, the world of standards and crypto, and then also the world of generic frameworks and AI. I think that those things converge with AI and Web3, and I think it's kind of like it's a fallacy to kind of drink that Kool-Aid of saying, oh, I can just vibe code my way with these standards and these generic frameworks to get my, magical use case. It doesn't necessarily work out that way. Especially in the world of AI, where it's like it introduces so much variance. And so when users come to a product, they want a consistent experience. And so if you continue to just kind of leverage generic frameworks, generic LLMs, a lot of the times it does not create that magical user experience that just works. And so at AITV, like, we're really passionate about this, and so much so that we look at a lot of the AI frameworks, but we still think it's too early to use one of the generic AI frameworks. We've made one in the past. We thought we could build a generic AI framework, and now we say, okay, this is our use case. We're going to tailor something directly towards it, because there's not a framework that is tailored for this specific use case. And I would just encourage more people to do that. Yeah, like it takes iterations, and it's not as simple as just, prompt and it goes,
So Derrek, for you guys, it's a little bit different, right? Because you engineer from user demands kind of backwards in your marketplace. Do you have any best practices on how you best define objectives, how you kind of formulate them to make them intelligible for agents, or not yet?
Well, quantitative things are easier than qualitative things. I think one of the more interesting meta conversations that we're all bumping into at one point or another is like, okay, I designed some agent, it does something, maybe it's an email writer, maybe it's a trader, qualitative, quantitative, but like, was it good? And this idea of evaluating the output, and then specifically, is an LLM a good fit or not for that evaluation task? And sometimes yes, sometimes no, it's domain specific and so on. Just this idea of like, wait, how do you define which ones are good at what they do? Our approach is like, well, first of all, go-to-market strategy, make our lives easy. We focus on crypto trading at the moment. So it's like, okay, profit and loss, pretty cut and dry. Did you make money or lose money? Oh, but it's a short amount of time, so actually anyone could have just gotten lucky that week. So the important part here is that we call it agent rank, like your performance relative to others, is something that evolves within a category over time. And so especially as we start to get into the more subjective capabilities, like which agents are the best at producing media and these other kinds of like really interesting use cases beyond just like, buying meme coins, it's like, yeah, I as an individual user might think that this model did not do what I wanted, and I might be able to penalize my sort of fine-tuned one. But that may or may not be like in the way that, like, if you read, like I've been going to restaurants around town, and some of the reviews I read, I'm like, oh, I don't agree with your opinion about this 1 star. Like, this is not a valid eval. You know what I mean? So it's like this really cool open question of how do we figure out which ones are good, and that definition is different for different people, which is one of the reasons we wanted to architect it so that all the performance data, the underlying performance data, would always be on chain, so that a big enterprise could come along later and say, like, in the trading example, okay, you did all these 7-day trading competitions and you did these 1-day trading competitions. I think that 1-day competition data, I'm just going to throw it out, right? It doesn't mean anything to me. So we give them the underlying primitive and our algorithm on top that has sort of an opinion about who's the best there.
Nice. So moving on to the next 12 months and looking ahead a little bit, we talked about metrics already, but if you look at the space in general, what would be some metrics that you would measure the space by in 12 months, and where would you like to see it? Is it TVL? Is it daily active users? Is it active agents in general? What do you think there? Maybe, Jordan, you can kick us off.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about users. I want to see users using Web3 applications. And so I think that for me, is a huge metric to see if whether we're actually reaching the adoption that we crave. I think that also, obviously, on the financial aspect, seeing the inflows of capital, TVL, all of the ETF inflows, all that stuff. Those are great metrics. Drive number go up. But at the end of the day, that's not what we're all here for. We're here for many different reasons because we care about Web3. We care about the future of the internet, co-ownership, privacy, being able to create new sorts of collaborative systems, and also, freedom of finance. And so I think that, for all of those things to be true, there's many different types of use cases, many different types of applications that can be built. And so it's not just as simple as TVL, but for me, it's more so users in Web3 native applications. And, also I think that is an interesting qualifier because people think in order for an app to be truly Web3, it needs to be totally decentralized. And I think that is kind of a dogma that actually kind of keeps more people out of the space. There's many ways we can leverage Web3 in applications where it can be a hybrid approach, and it allows you to build products faster and make them more usable for people. So I think that we kind of let down our pitchforks and we say, okay, integrate some things. That we have a lot of cool offerings, from identity to payments to this and that, privacy. Use some of it, use some great tech from the Web3 space in your applications, and it in general kind of drives more users into Web3.
So really quickly, just for AITV specifically, if you think about users, what would you like to see in 12 months?
Yeah, I want to see 12 months. I want to see 12 new agents on AITV. I want to see them streaming across many different platforms. These agents would be owned by many different organizations, driven towards specific communities, and seeing many different people interacting with these agents, and on the back end, those being tokenized interactions, and actually getting a lot of people their first tokens in Web3.
Ron?
I mean, I certainly think that TVL and users are important metrics, but one of the challenge, and then depending on what you're doing, you might have different things like risk-adjusted return and profitability. I think the biggest problem I see though is that there's so much incentivization that really corrupts these numbers. There's lots of incentivized TVL with different projects offering unsustainable returns to attract it, and similarly, there's a lot of incentivized programs to get users, right? So how do you strip that away and start to measure real product market fit? I think correcting for pure incentives, incentives that are a customer acquisition vehicle are good, right? But incentives that are the only thing people are coming for, not so good, right? So in fact, really bad. So I think it's ultimately you have to sort of to do a lot more work to say, is it a good business model? Is it working? One of the things that's going to be behind that is not just users, but retention, right? What is your net churn? If it's negative net churn, users are actually doubling down and putting more funds in, that's a really good sign. And if net churn is positive and it's rapidly funds are leaking out from each user, it's not a very good business, right? So the same is in Web3. I think one thing that's good is we're moving to a level of maturity in Web3. We're now talking about actual business metrics, right? So I think that it's a good conversation.
So we just heard the sign, 2 minutes, so one each.
Sure, thank you. So I'm not sure if I want it to happen, but I think it will happen. We're gonna see way more AI-driven traffic on chain, and also AI-managed TVL. I think protocols will be optimizing towards that. Protocols will be optimizing towards trading for AI models or asset management for AI models. So what I think will be a good metric 12 months from now is going to be share of AI of new protocol, or how much TVL is AI owned, how much volumes is AI owned. I think that would be a thing. The reason why is crypto was always about asset management and always will be. And it's also the easiest way to convince people to use AI for something because they are getting something back, which is gains, yeah? Do I want it to happen? I don't know, but I think it will.
The thing that would make me happiest is if we, like, the specific number would be like open source LLMs on Hugging Face that have been fine-tuned for specific use cases. Like specifically small parameter models. Like I would love to see like 7 billion, 30 billion parameter models for like every single industry and use case. Like I don't need Quen's like 300 billion model for me to do like dev lead outreach. I want like a 7 billion model that's really good at that specific thing. So if we start to see like those core pieces, I think we're going to start to see the products on top that package it in ways that like users and enterprises will actually use. And then we'll get to this like agent-to-agent swarm level and to be able to consume them in media and be able to do different forms of output and so on. It's just like, we need them to be better at doing what they do before we all trust them to do more of it.
I think we have to get to where agents sort of are able to really reliably handle tasks in big models, and then creating specialized small models is an optimization. But I think for many tasks, we haven't got to where we really have the level of automation and reliability that you can even start optimizing it.
Yeah, and also I think that in Web3, the business model of Web3 of launch token now, build later, I think that inhibits, quality products. Whereas in Web2, it's like you have let's say a SaaS product that, people pay for because it does a really good job at what it does. And if it doesn't, there's competitors. And I think that, like, for me, I'm really excited to see more commerce, like more on-chain commerce, not just agent to agent, but user to agent, of actually hiring this agent, be it a Web3 agent, owned by many people, ideally, to do this thing for me. Like that's, I think, the ideal scenario because it gets away from the, speculation, oh, this thing is in existence, but really it's not.
Perfect. So here we're going back to kind of Web2-like metrics to measure stuff, which might be good.
And Bitcoin price. That would
and
help.
Bitcoin
Yeah,
price.
that would
But in any case, you heard it in the beginning, don't take anything they just said for face value, because predictions, if they're right, they weren't bold enough. Thanks, all of you. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thank you.